So this week we looked at the various benefits, features of STOPAQ, the applications, the surface preparation requirements, application details, etc. So today I thought I'd take a different approach in this short tech bite, and that's really looking at one of the new drivers in the viscoelastic, well, in the coatings industry in general, across sectors, is the desire for our clients to achieve net zero and to lower their emissions and to reduce their waste. I would say going back 12 months, yeah, they were talking about it then, and it was a little bit of lip service back then, but now it's very apparent and very clear that this is one of the main driving forces in selecting product and selecting preparation techniques. And it falls right into the hands of STOPAQ in that the product just sits very well with our clients when they're trying to come up with cleaner solutions. So we're just going to have a look at some of the points that we talked to our clients about and some of the issues that they've raised in this short presentation. Thanks, Whitney. If we could just have a look at the next one. So Preserve as a company, we are dedicated to, I think the Norwegian term is ESG. Our term is sustainability and the environment. And it's, as it says here, it certainly is one of the most important and pressing themes of our age of time as it is now. So it's environmental, social governance are the three central factors. And it's used to measure how sustainable an actual company is. So we look very carefully at how we can become more sustainable and ultimately more attractive to our clients and to our employees. So I'm going to go, Whitney, thanks. Just a very quick overview of Preserve at the moment. Our turnover is approximately 145 million NOK, 61 of us spread across the globe, here in Aberdeen, headquartered Norway, offices Brazil, US, Australia. I normally miss one, I can't remember where else. And another factor now is 1 in 5 of the board members are women. I'll go into products, just give you an idea how we are becoming more sustainable with our products. Next one, Whitney. So one of the key drivers for us as a company is to reduce the amount of chemicals and harmful chemicals we're using in our product portfolio. So if you stuck a stick in the sand back in 2019, you can see how many tons of harmful chemicals and, hazardous and non-hazardous chemicals that we were using back then. And we've gradually come down the scale. So we've gone from 176 tons to 111 tons. But more importantly, the mix there has dropped from 40% to 34% hazardous. And it's continuing to drop down even further still. The type of business we're in, the products that we use are fundamentally chemicals. So there's always going to be a situation where there are certain chemicals with hazardous, non-hazardous components in them. Plastics is a challenge for Preserve in that a lot of our clients use plastics for preservation. Plastics are an economical way to preserve equipment, to look after equipment and shut down in storage. There are alternatives there now. There's compostable plastics. There's moves towards papers instead of plastic. But we also offer a service where we will collect the plastics from our clients once they've used them and then dispose of them. So although that figure's gone up, it's gone up primarily because of the growth in the business. So the actual percentage of plastics relating to all the products has dropped. Coatings, well, virtually eliminated coatings. The 2019-2020, the reason the coatings figure is so high is that Norway, where the Jotun paints distributor for the marine industry in Norway, STOPAQ, technically speaking, is a coating, but It's not a coating in the traditional sense of the word, so we eliminate the coatings from 2021. And thinners, well, yeah, same story, similar to coatings. We still use a little bit of, I would call it thinners, but it's more solvent for STOPAQ application, isopropanol. But it's primarily used for cleaning, and only very, very small amounts of products are used. So we're on the right track as a company, and this is the kind of thing that our key clients want to see. Before, this would be an interesting point, but here it's actually, this is a positive step forward and will rate us higher in the competitive market. Okay, Whitney, I'll go to the next one. Okay, just a little recap. For those that didn't attend the first 3 webinars earlier this week, what we're here, what we're talking about is STOPAQ as a method of eliminating corrosion from steelwork and pipework. What I would say is that STOPAQ, despite off the roll there, is regarded across industries, multi-sectors as a coating. It's regarded as a very clean and green coating. One of the key reasons for our clients selecting STOPAQ is the ability for it to go on to minimally prepared steelwork, ST2, who are aware of that surface preparation, and we can then eliminate the requirement for grit blasting, and that takes us back to the sustainability argument. We speak about surface profile as well. To get a surface profile on a substrate, you do need mechanical intervention, whether it's a mechanical blaster, a bristle blaster, a garnet blasting unit. You need that to profile the steel. With STOPAQ, you don't, because it'll work just as equally as well on a smoother substrate. Operational temperatures on STOPAQ, -45 up to 90, 95, but we'll peak going up to 120 degrees C. Another tick box for us is the no VOCs and very, very low waste generation. Unlimited shelf life is also good for our clients because they don't have to worry about wastage associated with material that's been purchased and past its shelf life. And also we're the same. As a supplier, we can stock STOPAQ knowing that one day, whatever we've got there on the shelves will be moved. So it's not something that will end up in a landfill or a dump. It will be used on site. And again, due to the long maintenance intervals, I'm talking about sustainability here now, that the product, once it's on the steel pipe or the structure, is there for a minimum of 30 years if required for that long. But realistically, we're looking at life of asset type applications, so 60 to 70 years. Okay, Whitney, thanks. Again, I know a few people have been on, but I just want to recap on this. The backbone of STOPAQ is the core component, which is the polyisobutene, which gives it its performance and allows it to do what it's supposed to do, and that's basically its flow characteristics. It will definitely flow into the profile of the substrate, into all areas of that substrate. Here's a little example of a notch cut in a piece of wood, and it will just flow into that notch and provide 100% adhesion to the total surface area. What does it actually mean? That means that every piece of substrate coated with STOPAQ is blocked for ingress of oxygen and moisture. The STOPAQ remains fluid, so that's why we get these extended maintenance intervals, as I said earlier, of up to 60+ years. Okay, Whitney, thanks. Again, going back to the surface preparation standards that we achieve, which is ST2, there's many ways to do that. The left-hand side there, we can see what we call Scotch Bride, or the STOPAQ scouring pads that we use to get rid of the loose and flaking material, any debris on the steel. We then, a small amount of isopropanol is wiped off using a clean rag. Once that rag is clean, we see it's a white rag normally, and there's nothing on the rag. We then do these, what we call adhesion checks. And these adhesion checks, if we leave any more than 95% of the product due to what we call cohesive failure, which is a good thing, we know that that substrate is ready for application using the STOPAQ products. This piece of pipe has showing 4 different types of manual prep, from paper disc, foam, wire brush to the Scotch-Brite pad. It really depends on the condition of the substrate in the first place when you visit the site. Is it heavy corrosion? Is it light corrosion? Is there contaminants there? Do we have to take an existing paint coating off or whatever? On the right-hand side, a useful point is that this is STOPAQ adhesion test on stainless steel. The advantage of using STOPAQ on stainless is that we can leave the protective passive layer that's manufactured into stainless steel, so we're not damaging the properties of the stainless steel pipe or structure. So we're getting double protection from both the stainless and then from the longevity of the STOPAQ on top of that. Okay, Whitney. Yeah, keeping in tune with today's topic is the net zero targets associated with corrosion prevention. Now, I have repeated this earlier in the week, but 27% of greenhouse gases can be associated globally to corrosion and the manufacturing of steel to replace corroded steel. So us and our fellow corrosion professionals have a duty to get that figure down, and we're beginning to see that being taken seriously by our clients. And it's not just the corporations, it's not just the Shells, the BPs, the big chemical manufacturers of this world. It's going right through the supply chain, and most people in the supply chain have someone in the organization or a department that is actively seeking to reduce their footprint. So just some high-level facts on that one. Absolute emissions to be reduced by 50% by 2030, which is not that far away. Take that figure down to 0 by 2050. So that I think we're going to see a step change in sustainability, environment, products, applications, lifestyles even, between 2030 and 2050. As I mentioned just previously, that we're responsible to work with our client's supply chain, our own supply chains, to make sure that the businesses that we're working in, that's feeding into our own operations, are aligned with our own ESG objective. STOPAQ continually looking to look for safer, cleaner products. Things like the backing strips that's on the back of STOPAQ just now, it's still a plastic-based material. There is research going on just now to replace that backing strip with something that's cleaner and greener. But we're getting there compared to the coating industry. And it's interesting when you look at the traditional coating industry and the type of paints that they're bringing to the market now, a lot more water-based type coatings, but we see that there's possibly a breakaway from performance as they move towards water-based. Water-based okay in certain climates and certain environments and controlled applications, but there are, for example, in the United Kingdom, trying to apply a water-based coating and get it to cure, apart from maybe 2 months of the year, it's going to be very, very difficult. Even with our own water-based coatings in the Cortec range, we were looking at 7 days for full cure. We often see if we use a water-based coating and the equipment's going outside into a yard, it's quite easy for that water-based coating to get washed off or become less effective due to the environment and the humidity and temperature ranges. So these are the sort of 4 key points that we are faced with and that we're looking at on a daily basis on how to reduce the emissions. Okay, Whitney. Okay, in practical terms, how does that work? Well, this is a job that we carried out in Scotland and on a refinery down in the Fife region. Fife's known for its inclement weather, to say the least. So we've got inclement weather on the coast, and this job started in the winter months. So immediately traditional coatings would be ruled out because the chances of getting the environmentals correct are very limited. It'd be a freak of nature. So we needed to find something that was tolerant, not just to the steel surface, but also to the conditions for the applicators to apply. So this was a rope access job and a scaffolding job, combination of the two. So if we look at blast and paint, we can see the various stages that you have to go through as a contractor. Your pre-wash, your dry, setting up your rigs, your tarpaulins. You have got to then garnet blast very, very carefully, because you do not want to have any carryover or fall into sea. Some of the coatings that may be coming off are harmful, so they need to be contained, and that needs to be inspected on a regular basis. So not going through everything there, but assuming that the weather's well enough for that time of year for blast and painting, we're still looking at a 12-13 day process to get that work done. On the other hand, with STOPAQ, it's a continuous process from as soon as the preparation is completed, which is ST2, and we've spoken about that. We then apply the wrapping band, which is the blue material, it's bluey-green material we can see there, and then the outer wrap on top of that. In this instance, we did use a surface tolerant coating as well, because the nodes where the tubulars meet horizontally, vertically, and diagonally is a complex node configuration of geometries. It's not too difficult for STOPAQ. It could be done, but the client felt it would be quicker and easier just to paint that out. So I think that was I believe, a humidor coating. So we can work in conjunction with liquid coatings as well, if required. We try not to, but if required, we do. But anyway, I'm probably a little bit ambitious there, saying day one surface prep and application of STOPAQ, then demobilization. It would probably 2 or 3 days for the job to be prepped and applied, and then demobilize. All I'm saying is that there's no need for interventions between each of the processes, i.e. inspection. The inspector is there, he'll watch the prep, he'll watch the outer wrap, the wrapping band go on, then the outer wrap. So his involvement is much less with the STOPAQ material. And again, that takes us back to why clients are now seeing STOPAQ as not just a nice to have in the toolbox for small patch jobs. They're now seeing it as a mainstream player in the larger paint specifications. Okay. I think I've included this slide in all the presentations I've done this week, because it is such an important slide, because the hard facts are the hard facts. That if the industry was to carry on with the blasting and painting, so 100 square meters of steel this is based on, at 400 microns thick, we are looking at creating approximately 2.5 tons of waste. So that's garnet, used garnet, coatings coming off steelwork as they try to get the steelwork to whatever surface prep needed for the coatings that are going to be going on there. Often that's as high as SA2.5. Once SA2.5, as a lot of people that's on this line will realise, once SA2.5 has been achieved, you've got a very, very tight window, again, depending on your environmentals, to get your first primer coat on. With STOPAQ, we don't have to worry about that. We're just going on with the ST2. So when it comes to waste, we've got 2.5 tons of waste that our clients are going to lose sleep over. How are they going to get rid of that waste safely within the regulations, and also try to minimize the impact on the environment? Very, very difficult. The other really interesting fact is that garnet is mined the same way it's been mined for probably centuries in Australia, primarily in India. That garnet is then used internationally everywhere from Europe, the States, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and it has to be transported. The only way you can transport garnet is bulk carrier, and that is a big global footprint there. So by using STOPAQ, we can reduce these carbon emissions by between 92 and 95%. I've covered the safety aspects today. So we know there's no VOCs, CMR free, it's non-flammable, no chemical exposure to the applicators, and no dust content to worry about or control. So when we're applying STOPAQ, we can carry out sim ops on the asset that we're working on. So the guys can be wrapping pipework structure in STOPAQ whilst other jobs are going on the asset. We have a client just now that in the water industry that has got a large buried culvert that's carrying potable water to a major city, and the outage there, you can only afford 6 hours at a time, and that's for cleaning, surface prep, and application of coating. So anything that's got a curing time is ruled out immediately. So he has to look at the market, he has to look to technology to come up with a solution, and STOPAQ is a solution for that type of difficult application. Something that's often overlooked is how do you calculate the cost of corrosion control on an asset? A lot of people just look at it as the job itself, the time it's taking for to do that job, the amount of materials that's used, and the cost of labour. We tend to look at it another way. We look at it as a lifetime maintenance cost of the asset or the piece of steel that we're protecting. And we know that STOPAQ has at least a 3 times extended maintenance interval compared to traditional coatings. So if that's costed in effectively and calculated by the asset owner, it's an immediate saving, considerable saving, as well as ticking these environmental boxes. Okay, next one, please. This is my favourite slide because it shows STOPAQ what it is, what you need for a job. STOPAQ's pre-cut, there's no tins, there's no brushes, there's no solvents there. Everything that's there can be wrapped up in that white sheet and just taken away. And as I say, that's just the backing foil of the STOPAQ and the cardboard rolls that they come in. So you just use what you need to use on that specific application with minimal waste. And the minimal waste is just some small cut-off bits that will be cut off with scissors by the applicators. Virtually 90% of what we do at the moment is rope access for hard to get to complex areas. And rope access technicians are coming back saying, you know, we should have been using this stuff years ago. It's so easy for us, rather than dangling from rope, trying to blast steel work or trying to use an airless spray gun is just, it's not practical. And many of our clients are saying, well, we don't spray, we don't blast now. And because of the hazards, because of the carryover, the risk to other parts of the asset and also risk to the applicator's health. So this is the way forward, and we're beginning to see that happening now. Okay, next one. Yesterday's presentation was solely on the application in submerged wet areas. And again, I just thought I'd just put this one in because the time saving by being able to use a single product from seabed underside concrete deck says it all. You know, it's quicker, it's safer. You're right into the waterways there, so you don't want to, well, you can't drop any materials or surface preparation residue into the waterways. So containment is vital. It's vital with STOPAQ as well. It's so much easier. But if you're using traditional coatings, you are going to have a problem with this type of complexity and difficult application environment that you face for marine applications. Okay. Probably the main application for STOPAQ as a anti-corrosive protection wrap is pipe work, and particularly bitted pipe work. And again, ideally suited because when the applicators are there, they get their coating system onto the pipe. They leave the work site, and there's no real evidence of them being there. The pipe is then backfilled. That pipe should not need to be looked at again, and won't need to be looked at again because of corrosion for at least, well, a guaranteed 30 years, but probably won't need to be looked at again for 60 odd years. Question on that one is, well, how do we know it's working? We've covered that this week in some of the earlier ones as well, that inspection has always been an issue for companies where the engineering team want to move to STOPAQ, but the inspection team say, we're not keen on it because it's too difficult to inspect through. That is now changing. The inspectors are coming around to believe that once it's on there, they do not need to inspect. And if they do, there are methods like cutting out patches, pulling back, checking the steel work. Simple reason for that is it's very difficult to NDT and UT condition of the steel readings, just the density, the nature, and the thickness of the coating. We are working in conjunction with a company who use monitors below the STOPAQ, so we can measure cumulative metal loss through telemetry for critical pipe runs where they're worried about metal loss in the pipe. So that's another way of just making sure that your STOPAQ's doing the job it should. STOPAQ will always do the job it's supposed to do if the applicators are applied correctly. And that's why here at PressServe, we train the applicators. So before they go dig up pipes, or before they are on a platform hanging off the ropes, they spend a day in here with Colin Fowlis, our STOPAQ TA, and we give certified training. So when they do go to the site, we know they're going to do a good job once they get there. Okay, Woody, thanks. This is a very short video. I just popped in. It's just a few seconds long, but it just shows how a difficult problem can be resolved without having to use traditional coatings. This is a land-based wind turbine. This is an inherent problem where you've got weld joints and you've got rust creep at the weld joints, and you've also got mechanical damage, probably caused by transporting it was a very short one, transporting the towers to the location and then lifting and putting them in position. We're now seeing more and more of STOPAQ and its fellow product Easy Coat being used in this repair market in the wind industry, because previously they were using factory coating specifications to carry out repairs. It's not practical, certainly not for offshore wind applications or offshore platform applications. You just can't get the conditions to do it. But still, the engineers are slowly changing to practical solutions rather than what they've always done in the past, which is basically copy-paste paint specs from factory into maintenance. We hope to see that changing drastically. I would say renewables is a great example. It's a relatively new industrial sector, and there is a reluctance to move technologies. But the more and more examples or trials that we do, the more it's getting accepted. Finally, I think this is the last one. Yeah, just in summary. So for the operator, we can see that you are ticking the ESG boxes, no VOCs, no hazardous chemicals to the skin for their applicators and the contractors. No self-produced noise, dust or vibration. We've done accommodation units on platforms while they're in use 24 hours a day, and nobody's even known that they're being coated from the outside because there's virtually no noise. To the environment, which we're all more and more aware of. I've covered all the points, so I don't need to go through them all, but it's not just the obvious things, it's other things such as reduction use of PPE, your masks, your suits, your gloves, the time that the guys are spending on site, it's all shortened. So that's got to be good for the environment and for the applicators themselves. And finally, for the project or for the scope of work, reduced need for scaffolding, ideal for the guys for rope access, as I said earlier. I was going to say no waiting time, but yeah, we still need 3 degrees above dew point for the normal wrap, but we can apply to hot, cold pipes. So there's virtually no requirement to shut down while we're doing the work. So basically, I think that is it. That's STOPAQ from an environmental point of view. What I would say is, for those that are responsible for assets, have a look at us, have a think what you're doing just now. But for those of us that are speaking to clients, I think it's fair to say you're in a very strong position with STOPAQ, in that if our clients are trying to find a solution that is proven, that has a track record, and is definitely ticking the ESG boxes, then come to Presiv, come to STOPAQ, and we can help. Okay, thanks everybody for today, and for those that attended this week, that was 4 short Tech Bite seminars.